Councilor Siomo. Councilor Edwards. Councilor Asabi George. Councilor Flaherty. Councilor Flynn. Councilor Janey. Councilor McCarthy. Councilor O'Malley. Councilor Presley. Councilor Wu. And Councilor Zakem. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I've been informed by the clerk that we have a quorum. At this time, I would like all councilors, members, and staff and guests to please rise. I'm going to invite Councilor Wu up to give the invocation and to introduce, not to give the invocation, to introduce today's clergy who will give the invitation. And I ask that everyone remain standing as we do the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilor Wu.
Thank you, Madam President. Good morning, everyone. I'm very honored to introduce to you today Reverend Ramona Farley from Metropolitan Baptist Church in Dorchester. Reverend Farley is a native of Boston who grew up in Dorchester and was reared by her late grandmother. She's a proud mother of two beautiful children, Miracle, age 15, and David, age 14. She joined Metropolitan Baptist Church in 1996 and received her license to preach the gospel in 2003. She's had some life-altering experiences, including battling major life-threatening illnesses, but she states that the Lord, through her experiences, has equipped her with the strength, endurance, perseverance, wisdom, and character that she has today. She graduated from UMass Boston with a bachelor's degree in sociology and psychology, and in 2015 from Andover Newton Theological School with a Master's of Divinity degree. And she's, unbeknownst and to her surprise, she was anonymously chosen to receive the Andover Newton Award for Excellence in Campus Leadership during the 2014-15 year. And we've been chatting a little bit about the dissertation that she's been working on around clergy response to mental illness, and she's done tremendous work to destigmatize mental illness, and something that she speaks with a lot of passion about. And I'm really proud to hand over the microphone to Reverend Ramona Farley.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. Before I go any further and give the invocation, I would like to just say that I'm happy to see the numbers that are here, because it shows concern and it shows involvement and it shows that we are aware of some circumstances that need to be addressed. All right, and I think that is very powerful. I think presence, along with voice, is important. And when you're absent, then there is no voice. Let us pray. Gracious God, I thank you for this time in which you have called and assembled us here to this place, oh God. I thank you, Lord, oh God, even for the opportunity for the counselors to come to meet, oh God. Lord God, I ask, oh God, even upon those who are visitors and, Lord, those who are just sharing an ear, oh God, I pray, oh God, that your wisdom will be an impartation upon us, oh God. Lord God, that we might know, oh God, how better to survive in a community and togetherness. Oh Lord God, how to stand with one another in community, oh God, and belonging. Lord God, I ask, oh God, that the issues that will be brought upon the table for discussion today, oh God, that first, oh God, that we will think not of ourselves, oh God, but we will think about who we stand for. And Lord God, as counselors, oh God, counselors stand for advocacy. Counselors stand as spokespersons. Counselors stand as ambassadors, oh God, that justice might be served for all. Lord God, let us not put ourselves above you, oh God, but let us remember that we are where we are, oh God, because you have positioned us in the places that we are. Not for our good old sake, but for the purpose of all others, oh God, that we might serve the common good. Lord God, now I pray your blessing upon each of the persons in this place, each of their families that are represented. Lord God, whatever their struggles may be, whatever, Lord God, their failings may be, Lord God, wherever they may not even understand the God that you are. Lord God, let your grace and your love abide here in this meeting. Some may pray in another name that they know you by, but I pray, oh God, in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Please, as the meeting begins, may you take your seats. I just wanted to share a little bit. I was speaking with Councilor Wu, and I was sharing with her my passion to be involved. And I believe as clergy, there is more involvement than just behind the walls of the church. Involvement includes being involved in the politics, being involved in the legislation, being involved in the regimes of community care. And when there is no voice, as I said, when one is absent, then that voice that is taken away is not heard. So I'm happy that you're here today. I hope that you will pray with me and well wishes for me as I continue to change the world as it is right now in terms of mental illness and the stigmatization that lies within our communities. For many that suffer beyond the pews, in our communities, and also in our personal homes and our lives. The longer we keep silent, the more that people suffer. So I wish you well in this meeting this afternoon. I thank you for having me, and I pray God's speed and God's wisdom, because as Solomon in the Bible, as he got ready to lead as king, and God said, ask of him anything he wanted, Solomon asked for wisdom. And so James, the book of James tells us, if you lack wisdom, ask of it, and God will give it without fault. God bless each of you.
I'm just going to ask everyone to stand again as we do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you again for Reverend Farley, and thank you for acknowledging the incredible turnout we have at today's meeting. Folks at home often can't see, but we do have a pretty packed house today, so thank you to all those in the pew who came to take part in today's meeting. At this time, I'd like to invite Councilor O'Malley for a special presentation. Thank you.
I'll bring them up too. Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to invite Ms. Linda Dennekamp and Bud White to please join me on the dais. And I'd also like to invite Councilors Anissa Essaibi-George and Councilor Ed Flynn to please stand with me too as I make this brief presentation. So I think most of you would agree that among the many wonderful parts of our job is getting to meet wonderful people and really getting to hear their story. And nothing could be truer than my experience with Bud White. Bud is someone who I've known for years just through the neighborhood. He's a neighborhood activist who's always around. And Bud had been working with me several years ago to honor his late friend, Betty Dennekamp. Betty was a Lady Leatherneck. She joined the Marine Corps in World War II. She was a native of West Roxbury, served with honor and distinction, left service, but still was an active participant in really serving, providing services and support for all service members. She passed away a number of years ago, so this body actually put forth a we couldn't do a Hero Square dedication because Ms. Dennekamp didn't pass in battle, but we were able to designate an outstanding citizen at the corners of Glenhaven and Paragon Road near the Dennekamp family homestead. So Bud, being such a selfless individual, he just wanted to make sure that his friend got the recognition that she so richly deserved. As that was happening, I later found out Bud himself, who had a legendary career serving our country, wearing our nation's uniform in World War II, he was an Army corporal, was slated to receive the French Legion of Honor Award, a very, very prestigious award. And Councilor Essaibi-George and I joined Bud and his family and countless friends and acolytes in West Roxbury at the Stratford Street Church in December. And it was just such an amazing experience. Bud was born in Millis, Massachusetts. He enlisted in the Army during World War II. He served in Company L, the 260th Infantry Regiment of the 65th Infantry Division, which was known as the Battle Axe Division, from July of 1944 through July of 1945. Bud spent 16 months stationed as an automatic rifleman in France, Germany, and Austria. After arriving in Metz, France, the 260th Infantry Regiment joined General Patton's Third Army in an attempt to breach the Siegfried Line. And he, obviously, the rest, as they say, is history. As the French Legion, the French consulate came to Boston to really bestow the honor on Bud with the French Medal of Honor, there was a gentleman who was there whom Bud didn't know, whom I didn't know, a West Roxbury resident. His name was Walter Michelau, and he spoke about how he grew up in France, remembers in the mid-1940s seeing American troops roll by. His family then escaped France, began a new life in the United States. He subsequently met his wife, who was in a refugee camp during World War II at the time. He became an American citizen. He joined the Air Force, and he just wanted to come by and say thank you to Bud, a person who he lives less than a mile away from, whom he had never met, who very much because of Bud's actions and others of the greatest generation saved this man's life at a very young age. It's just remarkable. So, you know, I just wanted to bring Bud by today to thank him again, to make sure that he knows how proud this council is, how proud this city is of him. He is a true son of Boston, an amazing man, and we are incredibly grateful for your service, your sacrifice, and all that you continue to do. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in recognizing Bud Wade. Want to say a couple words?
I just want to thank everyone. I'm amazed at everything, and I'm kind of nervous when I was coming in here this morning, and I'm honored. First off, I want to say I'm amazed that so many people seem to know more about me than I know myself. Matt, I'm honored to know Matt and his assistant Jessica, and my loving good friend Linda Dennekamp, who came with me this morning, and Anissa. And so I really don't have too much to say, only I'm just kind of spellbound and overwhelmed with all these things. People say, what did you do when you were there and all this, and how come you got all these honors and everything? Well, the best I can say is to say that I was there. And but I am so pleased and honored to be invited here. This is amazing. This is the first time I ever came to a council meeting, for sure. And but I guess all I can say is just thank you to everyone. Everyone has been so good and so great for me anyway. Thank you.
Do you have a cell phone you want us to take a picture with you, or we can send it to you later? We'll send it to you. Sure. It's awful quiet. We're all camera shy, as you can tell.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council O'Malley, and Bud, thank you for your service, and you are welcome back to the council anytime. We are here usually Wednesdays at noon. Councilor Asabi George has a special presentation.
Thank you, Madam President. And thank you, Matt, for that. That was very nice. But it's always wonderful to see you. Today I'm very excited to recognize the organizer of the Winter Walk. The Winter Walk is a special event that works to raise resources for Boston's homeless shelters. I invite you to join me along with 1,000 registered walkers this Sunday at 8:30 a.m. in Copley Square for the second annual Winter Walk. As the chair of the Committee on Homelessness, Mental Health, and Recovery, it is so important to me to continue to support those making strides towards ending homelessness. I invite with me today Ari Barbanel, the founder and executive director of this special event. Ari and I had the pleasure of teaming up last week with folks from the New England Home for Veterans to participate in the homeless count, along with Councilor Edwards and Councilor Flynn. And it is really, I refer to it as an incredible event. Unfortunately, we have to do things like the homeless count. But it really is a powerful time to spend with folks like Ari, thinking about those that are most vulnerable. And today, it gives me an opportunity to recognize Ari and the work she's doing to help the agencies that are doing some incredible work. So I'd like to introduce Ari to say a few words about Sunday's Winter Walk.
Thank you so much to Councilor Asabi George and to all of you for inviting me here, and I bring thanks from our Winter Walk committee. I'm just one of many who have come together to make this happen. The Winter Walk is indeed this Sunday, starting at 8:30 a.m. on Copley Plaza. We gather together to raise awareness and funds towards an end to homelessness in Greater Boston. We do that through a 2-mile walk outside in the coldest month of the year so that we can experience just a fraction of what our homeless community might experience living outside. And then we gather together after that on Copley, and we have a community breakfast, and we have stories shared from people who are experiencing or have experienced homelessness. It's a really special and meaningful event, and the best part is that 100% of proceeds that we raise through people walking and donating go back to incredible partner organizations that are giving direct service to our city's homeless population. This year, we are supporting Boston Healthcare for the Homeless program, Bridge Over Troubled Waters, Brookview House, Y2Y and Harvard Square, and Pine Street Inn. Those are just a few of the incredible service organizations in this city, and we hope to continue to grow and expand our reach and impact with your help. I wanted to share with you a little bit about why we started this and why we think it's important, and that story involves one of our founders, Paul English, who's a local Boston-born entrepreneur and philanthropist. And Paul was out a few years ago with Dr. Jim O'Connell from Boston Healthcare for the Homeless program on Pine Street Inn's outreach van that goes out overnight and cares for people. And he met a man on the street and boldly said, "What keeps you out here?" And the man said to him, "I'm bipolar, and circumstances don't allow me to manage that disease so that I can hold a job." Paul English is very open about also facing the challenge of bipolar disorder. And he realized in that moment that in one turn of the dial, that could be him out on the street. So we come together to think about that, to say that this can happen to anyone, that people experiencing homelessness are human beings, they're brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers and sons and daughters, and we're going to walk together on Sunday, February 11th, and then hopefully take action from there and work together to end homelessness, because we truly believe that ending homelessness is within our reach. So we're so grateful to the City of Boston. The work you do towards this cause is really incredible, and we hope that all of you will join us. You can learn more at winterwalkboston.org. I know many of you are very active on social media. If you want to share a little information about us, there's plenty of time to register and walk with us. It's a really thoughtful day. It's an emotional day. It's a fun day. We celebrate being together and caring about this. We don't want to walk together for too many more years. So I hope to see you Sunday, and we'll keep going from there. And thank you so much.
So on behalf of the Boston City Council, we recognize the Winter Walk for their efforts to raise awareness in supporting organizations providing services to those experiencing homelessness in Greater Boston. And be it resolved that the Boston City Council hereby express its gratitude, congratulations, and best wishes for this weekend. I'd like to invite my colleagues up for a quick photo. Thank you.
I got the Winter Walk. They have the branding.
Ready?
There we go.
No, I'll see you Sunday.
Thank you, Councilor Sabi George, and thank you, Ari, for all the work that you do. Madam Clerk, I'm not sure, but I think we need to amend the attendance record to add Councilor Presley.
Yes, very good memory, Madam President.
And now on to the regular order of business, approval of the minutes. If there are no corrections to be made, the minutes will stand approved. Seeing and hearing no objections, the minutes are so approved. Communications from His Honor the Mayor.
Docket number 0257, message and order approving the City of Boston to accept the right to enforce a use restriction to ensure that Huntington Theater continues to be used as a theater or similar cultural use.
Docket 0257 will be assigned to the Committee on Arts, Culture, and Special Events. Reports of public officers and others.
Madam President, would you like me to read 0258 through 0262?
That'd be great, thank you.
Thank you. Docket number 0258, communication was received from William F. Welsh, Clerk of the Senate, regarding the special election to be held on Tuesday, May 1st, 2018, to fill an existing vacancy in the 1st Suffolk Senatorial District caused by the resignation of Senator Linda Dracena-Fori. Docket number 0259, notice is received from the mayor of his absence in the city from 7 a.m. until 10:30 p.m. on Tuesday, January 30th, 2018. Docket number 0260, notice is received from the mayor of the appointment of Alice Richmond as a member of the Boston Conservation Commission for a term expiring November 1st, 2019. Docket number 0261, notice is received from the mayor of the appointment of Benjamin Stewart as a member of the Living Wage Advisory Committee for a term expiring June 11th, 2018. And docket number 0262, communication was received from Councilor Wu regarding a meeting on commuter rail fare equity.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Docket 0258 through 0262 will be placed on file. Matters recently heard for possible action.
Madam President, would you like me to read 0139 through 0232?
Let's actually do 0139, and then
And the rest of them.
that'd be great, thank you.
Thanks. Docket number 0139, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend 2 grants to the Massachusetts Gaming Commission for a cumulative amount of $250,000. The purpose of the grants is to fund a portion of the city's costs for the design of the Rutherford Ave/Sullivan Square project.
For docket 0139, the chair recognizes Councilor Wu, who is the chair of the Committee on Planning, Development, and Transportation.
Thank you, Madam President. We had a hearing on this docket on Monday morning, and I want to thank Jim Galuli from the administration for being there, as well as Councilor Edwards, Councilor Baker, Councilor Sabi George, Councilor Presley. I'm going to ask that this item stay in committee. The $250,000 grant is coming from the Mass Gaming Commission. The administration assures us that this is not from any potential, will not be affected by uncertainty from what's happening with Wynn and the casino and all that. It's going to offset the city's portion of the cost to get us to the 25% design, which the city is aiming for by June. There were a few follow-up questions regarding design, so want to keep it in committee for now for follow-up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Wu. Docket 0139 will remain in the Committee on Planning, Development, and Transportation.
Docket number 0130, message.
Actually, Madam Clerk, can we read dockets 0130 through 0232? Perfect, thank you.
Docket number 0130, message in order to reduce the FY18 appropriation for the reserve for the collective bargaining by $2,610,531 to provide funding for the police department for the FY18 increase contained with the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Boston and the Boston Police Detectives Benevolent Society Superior Officers Unit. Docket number 0131, message in order approving a supplemental appropriation of $2,610,531 to cover the FY18 costs contained within the collective bargaining agreements between the City of Boston and the Boston Police Detectives Benevolent Society Superior Officers Unit. The terms of the contract are July 1st, 2016 through June 30th, 2017, and July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2020. The major provisions of the contract include base wage increases of 2% effective the first pay period of July of each fiscal year. The agreements also include increases in the existing Quinn Bill/education benefits, modified cumulative risk benefits beginning in July 2016, and increases to hazardous duty pay beginning in July 2017. Docket number 0132, message in order to reduce the FY18 appropriation for the reserve for the collective bargaining of $97,051 to provide funding for the Boston Public Health Commission for the FY18 increases contained within the collective bargaining agreements between the Boston Public Health Commission and the American Federation State, County, Municipal Employees, known as AFSCME, Council 93, Local 787. Do you want me to finish the collective?
Yes,
Okay, good.
thank you.
You're welcome. Docket number 0133, message in order approving a supplemental appropriation of $97,051 for the Boston Public Health Commission for the FY18 budget to cover the FY18 costs items contained within the collective bargaining agreements between the Boston Public Health Commission and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, known as AFSCME, Council 93, Local 787. The terms of the contract are October 1st, 2016 through September 30th, 2020. The major provisions of the contract include base wage increases of 2% effective the first pay period of January of each fiscal year. The agreements also contain other benefits, including new steps beginning in 2019. As originally presented to you, the FY18 budget request included a reserve for collective bargaining, a separate appropriation to fund projected collective bargaining increases. Docket number 0231, message in order to reduce the appropriation of the reserve for collective bargaining by $135,957 to provide funding for the Boston Public Schools for the FY18 costs contained within the collective bargaining agreements between the Boston School Committee and the Boston School Police Patrolmen's Association. And docket number 0232, message in order approving a supplemental budget of $134,957 to cover the FY18 cost items contained with the collective bargaining agreements between the Boston School Committee and the Boston School Patrolmen's Association. The terms of the contract are September 1st, 2016 through August 31st, 2017, and September 1st, 2017 through August 31st, 2020. The major provisions of the contract include base wage increase of 2% in October of each fiscal year. The agreements also contain other benefits, including new steps.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. For dockets 0130 through 0232, the chair recognizes Councilor Siomo, the chair on the Committee on Ways and Means.
Thank you, Madam President. We held a hearing yesterday on these 6 dockets. We had testimony from the administration by Justin Sterrett, our budget director, Anne Marie Noonan, Director of Office of Labor Relations for the City of Boston, Steve Whitman, Deputy Superintendent of the Boston Police Department, David Susich, Director of Labor and Employment for the Boston Public Health Commission, and Karen Glasgow, Director of Labor Relations for the Boston Public School Department. As the clerk read, all 3 of these agreements are kept consistent with the 2% per year wage increase. Before I read dockets 0130 and 0131, I'd like to recognize we're joined by several members of the Boston Police Detectives Benevolent Society Superior Officers. I want to thank you all for your service. There are approximately 140 members in this bargaining unit. Specific language changes were also agreed to, including clarification in language concerning swaps to limit potential for additional compensation when a detective superior swaps with someone on a different shift. Establishment of new limits and clarification of circumstances that occur when detective superiors must appear in court on previously scheduled vacation days, and creation of administrative efficiencies regarding start times and of vacations and holidays. Other cost items in this contract include increases to the strip bases for detective superiors, gradual increases to Quinn Bill Education Incentive Plan between FY18 and FY19, new cumulative risk enhancement benefit for detective superiors with 5, 10, and 15 years experience, and incremental increases to the hazardous duty differential between FY18 and FY19. The supplemental appropriation that we are authorizing today for this agreement is $2,610,531. Docket 0132 and 0133, Boston Public Health Commission and the AFSCME Municipal Employees Council 93, Local 787. There are approximately 55 Boston Public Health Commission employees in this bargaining unit. Some of the language agreements were the implementation of a reasonable suspicion and past accident drug and alcohol testing policy, the implementation of a cap on existing entitlement to redeem unused sick leave at retirement, and adding new provisions that will enhance Boston Public Health's ability to fill vacancies more efficiently, ensure adequate staffing during weather emergencies, and train employees in areas related to public health, including the administration of Narcan. Other cost items include creation of a new Step 10 and Step 11 in 2019 and 2020, respectively, increases to the specialty differential and uniform allowance for campus police, increases to the City of Boston's AFSCME Housing Trust Fund, and implementation of paid parental leave and paid cancer screening leave and legal services benefits consistent with ordinances and benefits within the AFSCME citywide unit. The supplemental appropriation for this year's portion appropriation is $97,051. And dockets 0231 and 0232. Boston School Committee and the Boston School Police Patrolmen's Association. There are approximately 55 members in this bargaining unit. Tuition reimbursement that allocates the existing $4,000 per year proportionally across multiple requesting members of the bargaining unit, and tasks the Joint Labor Management Committee with creating a timeline and process for the approval and reimbursement of these requests. Other costs in the contracts include step increases, modifications to existing career awards, and modification to vacation leave for employees with greater than 10 years of service. The supplemental appropriation that we are approving today for this contract is $134,957. After these agreements are funded, there'll be approximately $18 million left in collective bargaining reserve. We will have, under agreement, about 65% of our employees in bargaining units in the City of Boston, an amount sufficient to cover the remaining collective bargaining agreements if the costs remain consistent with the other previously funded contracts. I recommend these orders ought to pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Siomo. You want to do this? At this time, Councilor Siomo moves for passage of dockets 0130 through 0232. We will take them each separately. Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll on docket 0130.
Docket number 0130, Councilor Baker.
Yes.
Councilor Baker, yes. Councilor Campbell.
Yes.
Councilor Campbell, yes. Councilor Siomo.
Yes.
Councilor Siomo, yes. Councilor Edwards. Yes. Councilor Edwards, yes. Councilor Asabi George. Yes. Councilor Asabi George, yes. Councilor Flaherty. Yes. Councilor Flaherty, yes. Councilor Flynn. Yes. Councilor Flynn, yes. Councilor Janey. Yes. Counselor Janey, yes. Counselor McCarthy?
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy, yes. Counselor O'Malley?
Yes.
Counselor O'Malley, yes. Counselor Presley? Yes. Counselor Presley, yes. Counselor Wu? Counselor Wu, yes. Counselor Zachem? Counselor Zachem, yes. Madam President, docket number 0130 received a unanimous vote.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Docket 0130 has been passed. Docket 0131.
Docket number 0131, Counselor Baker?
Yes.
Counselor Baker, yes. Counselor Campbell?
Yes.
Counselor Campbell, yes. Counselor Siomo? Yes. Counselor Siomo, yes. Counselor Edwards? Counselor Edwards, yes. Counselor Asabi George? Yes. Counselor Asabi George, yes. Counselor Flaherty? Yes. Counselor Flaherty, yes. Counselor Flynn? Yes. Counselor Flynn, yes. Counselor Janey? Yes. Counselor Janey, yes. Counselor McCarthy?
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy, yes. Counselor O'Malley?
Yes.
Counselor O'Malley, yes. Counselor Presley? Yes. Counselor Presley, yes. Counselor Wu? Yes. Counselor Wu, yes. And Counselor Zachem? Counselor Zachem, yes. Madam President, docket number 0131 received an unanimous vote.
Docket 0131 has been passed. Docket 0132.
Docket number 0132, Counselor Baker?
Yes.
Counselor Baker, yes. Counselor Campbell?
Yes.
Counselor Campbell, yes. Counselor Siomo?
Yes.
Counselor Siomo, yes. Counselor Edwards? Counselor Edwards, yes. Counselor Asabi George? Yes. Counselor Asabi George, yes. Counselor Flaherty? Yes. Counselor Flaherty, yes. Counselor Flynn? Yes. Counselor Flynn, yes. Counselor Janey? Yes. Counselor Janey, yes. Counselor McCarthy? Yes. Counselor McCarthy, yes. Counselor O'Malley? Yes. Counselor O'Malley, yes. Counselor Presley? Yes. Counselor Presley, yes. Counselor Wu? Yes. Counselor Wu, yes. And Counselor Zachem? Counselor Zachem, yes. Madam President, docket number 0132 has received a unanimous vote.
Docket 0132 has been passed. Docket 0133.
Docket number 0133, Counselor Baker?
Yes.
Counselor Baker, yes. Counselor Campbell?
Yes.
Counselor Campbell, yes. Counselor Siomo? Yes. Counselor Siomo, yes. Counselor Edwards? Counselor Edwards, yes. Counselor Asabi George? Yes. Counselor Asabi George, yes. Counselor Flaherty? Yes. Counselor Flaherty, yes. Counselor Flynn? Yes. Counselor Flynn, yes. Counselor Janey? Yes. Counselor Janey, yes. Counselor McCarthy? Yes. Counselor McCarthy, yes. Counselor O'Malley? Yes. Counselor O'Malley, yes. Counselor Presley? Counselor Presley, yes. Counselor Wu? Counselor Wu, yes. And Counselor Zachem? Counselor Zachem, yes. Madam President, docket number 0133 has received a unanimous vote.
Docket 0133 has been passed. Docket 0231.
Docket number 0231, Counselor Baker?
Yes.
Counselor Baker, yes. Counselor Campbell?
Yes.
Counselor Campbell, yes. Counselor Siomo?
Yes.
Counselor Siomo, yes. Counselor Edwards? Counselor Edwards, yes. Counselor Asabi George? Yes. Counselor Asabi George, yes. Counselor Flaherty?
Yes.
Counselor Flaherty, yes. Counselor Flynn? Yes. Counselor Flynn, yes. Counselor Janey? Yes. Counselor Janey, yes. Counselor McCarthy?
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy, yes. Counselor O'Malley?
Yes.
Counselor O'Malley, yes. Counselor Presley? Yes. Counselor Presley, yes. Counselor Wu? Counselor Wu, yes. And Counselor Zachem? Counselor Zachem, yes. Madam President, docket number 0231 has received a unanimous vote.
Docket 0231 has been passed. Docket 0232.
Docket 0232, Counselor Baker?
Yes.
Counselor Baker, yes. Counselor Campbell?
Yes.
Counselor Campbell, yes. Counselor Siomo?
Yes.
Counselor Siomo, yes. Counselor Edwards? Counselor Edwards, yes. Counselor Asabi George? Yes. Counselor Asabi George, yes. Counselor Flaherty?
Yes.
Counselor Flaherty, yes. Counselor Flynn?
Yes.
Counselor Flynn, yes. Counselor Janey?
Yes.
Counselor Janey, yes. Counselor McCarthy?
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy, yes. Counselor O'Malley?
Yes.
Counselor O'Malley, yes. Counselor Presley? Yes. Counselor Presley, yes. Counselor Wu? Counselor Wu, yes. And Counselor Zachem? Counselor Zachem, yes. Madam President, docket number 0232 has received a unanimous vote.
Docket 0232 has been passed. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on to motions, orders, and resolutions.
Docket number 0263, Counselor O'Malley offered the following order for hearing to consider benefits of net zero carbon requirements and incentives for future construction in the city of Boston.
Council O'Malley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. The Boston Climate Action Plan has an aggressive goal of having the city lower its greenhouse gas emission rates by 25% by 2020, which shockingly is 2 years from now, as well as 80% or carbon neutral by 2050, which is 32 years from now. Ambitious goals, I support them wholeheartedly. I would venture a guess most of you do too. But the fact of the matter is we need to do more to reach and exceed those goals because we're not there yet. Now, this body has led on a whole host of issues, and I am so proud of each and every one of you for working alongside all of us together to achieve these goals. But when we talk about greenhouse gas emissions and how to deal with them, we really have to get to the root of the cause. Now, what is that? Simple. It's construction. Houses, buildings, dwellings, freestanding buildings contribute to over 50% of our greenhouse gas emission rates every year. Now, we are in the midst of a building boom in the city where there are billions of dollars worth of new development happening. So how do we encourage those owners to build in more environmentally sustainable and more environmentally friendly buildings? Well, there's a whole host of things that we can do, not the least of which is, working with the BPDA, working with different developers, working with our trades union, working with neighborhood groups. Now, we've all been through a whole host, particularly my fellow district councilors. When a new development comes in for the neighborhood, we often work closely with them to increase their affordable housing stock, very important, to increase green space and open space or some community space for the neighborhood, also very important. But we need to be having a conversation, too. What are you going to do to make this a more environmentally sustainable project? That is, we can get to that point by creating some new net zero carbon requirements for the city of Boston. Now, this is a refile of an order that I did last fall, I believe, and on December 11th of 2017, we held a hearing where I can remember it was a very busy day. I believe it was the day of our luncheon with the Boston Municipal Research Bureau, and nevertheless, most of you attended the hearing, spent some time at the hearing, and then Councilors-elect Edwards, Flynn, and Janey all came by to observe the hearing as well. So I know this is an issue that everyone here feels very, very strongly about. We didn't take action, obviously. We have no actionable items to take at this point, but I'm reintroducing it today so that we can continue this conversation. The hearing that we held in December of last year was incredibly insightful, and I wanted to thank folks from the Environment Department, the Green Ribbon Commission, the BPDA, the Clean Energy Coalition, which has been the driving force behind this, the BCEC, Mothers Out Front, of course, and Boston Medical Center. BMC has committed, and they are on they will achieve this goal of being carbon neutral by the end of 2018. So I'm talking 9-10 months from now, we will have one of our major health institutions being carbon neutral, and hospitals and health centers have really led the way. So I don't need to remind everyone how susceptible we are to the impact of climate change, to rising sea levels and extreme weather. So it's time that we really lead in innovative and sustainable new solutions. Cambridge, Mass., Austin, Texas, Fort Collins, Colorado, and Palo Alto, California have already successfully implemented net zero strategic plans. What we are seeking to do today is continue the next conversation and to build Boston's net zero action plan. This is easy. I'm not looking to penalize people. We're not looking to necessarily retrofit old buildings. We've actually done a lot of the work in this body through the passage of the Boston Energy Reporting and Disclosure Ordinances, or BERDO, as we did back in 2012. This is the next step. As we talk about new construction, how can we work with folks to build more environmentally friendly buildings and dwellings? Oftentimes, as I have said time and time again, it's not only good for the environment, but good for the customer, good for the consumer. We've seen it. We've seen so many instances where renewable infrastructure, such as PV panels, such as working on the envelope of a building to make sure that the heating is able to sustain, actually saves money in the long run. Yeah, pretty close to after it's being built. So this is an exciting conversation. I want us to continue. This is really a way that we can meet and achieve our goals, because we ain't doing it until we get to something with a little more heft on the books. And it's really another way that this body can lead. Having more environmentally sustainable building going forward is not only good for the environment, which of course it is, it will be good for the ratepayer, it will be good for the city, and most importantly, it's the right thing to do. So please join me once again in supporting this effort. We look forward to having a working session at some point over the next couple of weeks or next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. Councilor Wu, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Just want to thank Councilor O'Malley once again for his leadership on this. Happy to help in whatever way and push for as strong incentives as possible. I just wanted to ask if we could also loop in, I know I saw over the weekend the Office of Urban Mechanics had announced that there will be now an RFI available to look at a lot of city parcels, libraries, community centers, parking lots, and how we might be able to add affordable housing to those components. if we're looking at a city footprint of a municipally owned building and potentially adding construction on top of that, let's make sure that right away we're talking about what standards should be there for green construction, energy efficiency, et cetera. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Wu. Would you like to add your name?
Yes, please.
Madam Clerk, if you could add Councilor Wu, Councilor Siomo, Councilor Edwards, Councilor Asabi George, Councilor Flaherty, Councilor Flynn, Councilor Janey, Councilor McCarthy, Councilor Presley, Councilor Zachem, and the Chair. Councilor Baker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, and I just want to commend the author of this one here. I would like to sign on, but I would also like to make sure that we keep a keen eye and make sure that we don't drive the cost of building up. I think there's a way to do this by paying attention to it, that we can make the smart building, if we're intelligent about it, we can not necessarily increase the cost of building. That makes sense to you? Because if we're increasing the cost of building, then it's more difficult for affordable units, or more difficult to build things. So although I totally agree with it, I think we have to make sure that we're keeping an eye on the cost of building and not try not to drive the cost of building up. But thank you, and thank you for this, Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Councilor Baker. If we could add, Madam Clerk, if we could add Councilor Baker. Docket 0263 will be assigned to the Committee on Environment, Sustainability, and Parks. Docket 0264.
Docket 0264, Councilors Wu and Campbell offer the following order for a hearing regarding the usage of surveillance equipment in the city of Boston.
Councilor Wu, you have the floor.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to suspend Rule 12 and add Councilor McCarthy as a co-sponsor.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Rule 12 has been suspended, and Councilor McCarthy has been added as a third co-sponsor. Councilor Wu.
Thank you. So this is a hearing order that's meant to start a conversation about how we should be thinking about data collection across the city. We are now living in a world where everywhere we go, our phones are connected to things that are collecting information. Every website we visit, every place every time we park our car and pay the meter, that is being logged and kept somewhere. That's great that there's technology now that's helping us deliver city services more efficiently and more responsively. We also just want to make sure that with all of this data collection, we're also remembering civil liberties and privacy rights. So I think the two departments that came to my mind as we were thinking about this were the Boston Police Department and the Transportation Department, thinking about ways that we're collecting information about residents through cameras or sensors or other online information. And every time we've interacted with the departments, it's been a great conversation about how do we come to the community, agree on a policy that works, that talks about data retention, who has access, all of these issues that get wrapped up into information gathering. And we settle on a great policy. I think body cameras has been one example with your leadership that the Boston Police Department and Commissioner Evans from day one said we want this to be something that works for community, that increases trust. But there are going to be more technologies every day as new ways of collecting and compiling information come together. So I want to talk about the process of how do we set a policy that has a standard framework for what questions need to be asked every time a new surveillance technology or information gathering technology is considered across any city department. We've been very successful at this already, and I think it's time just to take one step back and think big picture about all the things that will come in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Wu. Councilor McCarthy, would you like to say? Councilor McCarthy. I'll quickly just add, thank you, Councilor Wu and Councilor McCarthy, for your partnership on this. I think the body cameras are a great example of being able to roll out a policy that is balanced, that understands the need for technology and certain tools, but at the same time balancing that with privacy concerns. So thank you, Councilor Wu and Councilor McCarthy. Anyone else looking to speak on this matter? Councilor Edwards, you have the floor.
I wanted to thank you for your leadership, both you, Councilor Campbell and Councilor Wu. I wanted, and also Councilor McCarthy, for your leadership and really engaging us in a very important conversation. I think for me, why I'm really excited about this is it's about increasing the trust that we're going to have with our law enforcement officers. I'm particularly hopeful that our discussion will come down to really analyzing how we discuss how the community is actually monitoring how we're being monitored. I really hope that there's a real process set up so that as increased in technology, whether we're looking at drones, whether we're looking at different kinds of cameras, if we're looking at infrared lighting, if whatever it comes that the law enforcement agency is looking to increase monitoring our communities, that our communities are actually the ones who are able to hold them accountable, but also have that discourse with them, not trying to stop them, but essentially that we're saying, yes, we're okay with being monitored in a certain way. So I think that actually would increase trust, and I think it's a really, it's time that we actually have that conversation, especially with increased technology. So again, thank you for your leadership. Thank you, Councilor Wu, and thank you, Councilor McCarthy.
Councilor Edwards, would you like to add your name?
Yes.
Madam Clerk, if you could add Councilor Edwards, Councilor Baker, Councilor Siomo, Councilor Asabi George, Councilor Flaherty, Councilor Flynn, Councilor Janey, Councilor O'Malley, Councilor Presley, Councilor Zakem. Docket 0264 would be assigned to the Committee on Public Safety and Criminal Justice. Docket 0265. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Madam President. Docket number 0265, Councilor Wu will offer the following order for hearing regarding vocational education in the city of Boston.
Councilor Wu, you have the floor.
I have two motions to start. So first, could I again suspend Rule 12 to add Councilors Asabi George and Janey to this, please?
Any objections? Hearing no objections, Councilor Asabi George and Councilor Janey are added as two co-sponsors.
Thank you. And then a motion to substitute the reformatted version that includes the co-sponsors' names and fixes some formatting issues.
Any objections? Substitution is fine, and thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Sure. So vocational education has been in the news even more lately. Our President Trump has been speaking of it frequently from his State of the Union address and other meetings, but talking about it in a very siloed, narrow way. So I think it's time for the City of Boston to continue showing that we can put forth the best model of something that connects our residents with opportunity, with economic development, with jobs of the future. Vocational education today is, yes, about teaching students those skills that give them an alternative pathway to traditional college, but it's also preparing students who still want to get a secondary degree in a very technical field. We see some of the best examples across the country right here in Massachusetts and in the Commonwealth. So I would hope that with this docket, my co-sponsors and I can kind of take us on a roadshow to visit some other sites across the state, learn from them, and bring some of that learning back to Boston. We have tremendous potential to build up Madison Park and potentially expand it beyond there as well. This is directly about bringing jobs, bringing equity and opportunity to our residents and our next generation of residents.
Thank you, Councilor Wu. Councilor Asabi George, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd first like to thank the maker and look forward to working with her and Councilor Janey, especially in her role as Vice Chair of the Committee on Education, on this. As chair, I find it, as chair of the Committee on Education, I find it hard to believe that the City of Boston still only has one vocational school, and that's Madison Park High School. And unfortunately, the gap in excellence of what we provide at Madison still exists, and we need to do more as a city for those students and the students across the city. This is a conversation that many of us have had with each other and with members in the community across the city for a very long time. I believe that vocational education is a doorway to opportunities and one that our students in the city of Boston deserve to have. This is about their future and their success. Vocational education is more than just carpentry and culinary arts. It needs to be a state-of-the-art building that provides the skills that our students need. When I went to high school in Boston, I went to Boston Tech, and although I was always on that sort of traditional college track, we were able to participate in sheet metal and electronics and drafting. And I talk sometimes about the mailbox that's on my house. That's the mailbox I made in high school. And that skill set, it wasn't something that I'd pursue later on, but it gave me confidence in the rest of my academics. And I think it's so important that we are making sure that Madison can provide a rigorous vocational education to enhance the academic education that our kids deserve. But we also have to talk about how this can also be offered at other schools across the city of Boston so that kids can still get their hands dirty in traditional and non-traditional vocational education. So I look forward to this hearing. I look forward to exploring ways that together as a council we can make Madison Park not just a gem in the city, but a gem for the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Asabi George. Councilor Presley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, and just commend the makers of this and appreciate the points that have already been made, and just wanted to express my appreciation that in the first whereas that we have included the culinary arts very often when we're talking about Madison Park and the need to make a greater investment, to make this the flagship, to make this the model. We're often a one note in the trades that we're talking about. Madison Park used to be the feeder, both their school nursing program. I also want to cite and name their cosmetology and beauty school, as well as automotive and building and all the other things. So specifically, I just wanted to just say how much I appreciate that the culinary arts was named in there. This was at one point the premier feeder school. It should be that again. And before we think about expanding vocational education, we need to make good on our promises to Madison Park. And it needs to be the flagship. And so, we appreciate Lawrence, but we want people to come and visit Madison Park because we are the model that everyone else wants to emulate. And those students deserve that. These times, this economy requires that. And I just want us to never lose sight of the fact that all of the curriculum and all of the facilities, and certainly facilities is an important part of this, external partners that are offering that professional and workforce development and mentorship and training is all very important as well. But every study has supported that you have got to make a greater financial investment. So it's not just about the facilities, it's not just about the training, it's not just about the partnerships. We have got to sign on to spending more money per pupil in order for us to really actualize a premier vocational school. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Presley. Councilor O'Malley, you have the floor.
Thank you.
May we add Councilor Presley's name?
Thank you, Madam
Councilor
President.
O'Malley. Thank you,
Please
Councilor
add my
Presley.
name as well.
Thank you.
Wanted to, of course, commend the makers, Councilors Wu, Asabi George, and Janey for their leadership on this. This is exciting, and I really think not only is it going to help invest a school and a system that will benefit greatly, but as we talk about sort of the voc skills of the future, I hope that we also talk about green jobs. The fastest growing economy is the green economy. These jobs pay well, and we need people. We need smart people, young people, to really take an interest in these. So we talk about building retrofitting or mass transit or wind or solar techs. So many opportunities here to work with some established partners and really build those relationships. These are obviously great jobs, well-paying jobs, and sorely in-demand jobs. So I'm nothing if not consistent, Madam President. Let's make sure that we engage the green community as well to really help this wonderful initiative grow. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. Madam Clerk, if we could add Councilor O'Malley's name, Councilor Edwards, Councilor Flaherty, Councilor Flynn, Councilor McCarthy, Councilor Zakem, Councilor Siomo, Councilor Baker, as well as the Chair. Docket 0265 will be assigned to the Committee on Education. Docket 0266.
Docket number 0266, Councilor Edwards offers the following resolution supporting Boston Logan Airport workers' strike.
Councilor Edwards, you have the floor.
I wanted to first recognize two people who are in this room who are proud and who are brave enough to stand up for their fellow workers. The first is Dial Gathers, and the other one is Manuel Pena. Could you both stand or raise your hands? Manuel's in here. It's important to recognize the two workers who are leading and representing the other workers who are currently on strike. And I wanted them to see us support them because you are not alone. And going on strike is about being seen. It's about having a voice when There are 500 workers right now who have been victims of wage theft, of occupational hazards, of harassment, of illegal surveillance for trying to come together and simply have a voice. So again, I thank you both for coming together, and I wanted to also say that I am introducing this resolution and support all of those workers who are subcontractors to FSS and ReadyJet, two companies who have horrible records for treating their workers and who are subcontracted still by JetBlue, despite my call, despite the calls from the mayor, despite calls from Representative Madaro, despite calls from Senator Boncory, and I'm sure many of you here today, to say stop treating your workers with lack of respect and dignity. So I'm standing here in support of them proudly because, again, to strike is to be seen, and I firmly believe in respect and dignity. I stand here, of course, with the incredible 32BJ and the many members who stand with these folks ready to march and ready to stand outside in the cold to assure that they receive the respect and dignity that they deserve. Higher wages, or at least living wages, are basic. And the fact that these companies have been operating in such a way in this great city of Boston is shameful. We as a city council need to stand together and say that that's not how we allow business to be done here. So before I move to suspend the rules and to adopt this resolution, I wanted for all of my colleagues, my brothers and sisters in the City Council, to have the opportunity to also express their support for this resolution.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards. Those wishing to add their name: Councilor Baker, Councilor Siomo, Councilor Asabi George, Councilor Flaherty, Councilor Flynn, Councilor Janey, Councilor McCarthy, Councilor O'Malley, Councilor Presley, Councilor Wu, Councilor Zakhem. Add the chair as well, Madam Clerk. And those wishing to speak, I'll try to take you in order. So, Councilor Zakhem, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Councilor Edwards, for your words and for bringing this forward. And thank you all for being here, for standing up, not just for yourselves, but for every worker in the city of Boston, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Hearing about some of the outrageous behavior by ReadyJet and FSS, and let's not let JetBlue off the hook either. They often, and they're not alone in this, using it as a cop-out, that, oh, these people don't work for us, they're subcontractors. That is baloney, to use a word I can say on the floor here. It is unacceptable in Massachusetts, in Boston, in a city that values all of our people and their work and fair treatment, to say that. You know, JetBlue has made Logan Airport a centerpiece of their corporation, of their marketing plans, of their revenue generating, of the business that's doing so well for them, and they need to treat our workers here in the city of Boston properly. And that means, if necessary, cutting ties with subcontractors who are engaged in wage theft, harassment, intimidation of workers who are standing up for their rights. And I just want to say, without a shadow of a doubt, that here in Boston, we stand with you. We will stand with you in this chamber, outside of this building, on the streets, and make sure that we have fair treatment. 32BJ and the workers who are here today have done incredible work standing up for yourselves and for everyone in this city, and we stand with you. It's unacceptable that at a public facility like Logan Airport this is going on. It's bad enough when we don't have public recourses in these situations, but we do have here. We need to make sure the pressure is brought both on JetBlue as the overarching entity, but also these subcontractors to treat you fairly and equitably. So thank you for your efforts. We stand with you and look forward to obviously adding my name and supporting this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Zakhem. Councilor Presley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank Councilor Edwards for bringing this resolution before the body. Oftentimes outside of the chamber, people will ask about the different tools that we use, legislative tools on the City Council, and they'll ask me, what is a resolution? And I always say it is an affirmation, a reiteration of our values. And so as much as I struggle with and am at times resentful that we have to keep filing such resolutions, as much as we have to reaffirm and reassert and reiterate social and economic justice issues such as this, I'm very sorry and infuriated by the indignities and the unfair treatment that you have received. I want to thank each and every one of you for your bravery, because we recognize that you are risking your own livelihoods and your abilities to provide for your families. We are inspired by your example. We are grateful for your service and the many contributions that you make to this city. And 32BJ, I want to thank you for making sure that this is never an invisible workforce, and that this workforce is always seen, and that their families are always seen. And so today, again, we affirm as a value that you are deserving of better. And nothing about this is charitable. It is simply what you have earned. And so we stand in solidarity with you today, and we will continue to do so for as long as you need us.
Thank you, Councilor Presley. Anyone else looking to speak on this matter? Councilor Flynn, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. It is an honor for me to speak about the striking workers at Logan Airport. I'd like to thank Councilor Edwards for this resolution, and I'm proud to support it. These workers are exercising their right to organize for fair and living wages. They are symbolic and part of the fabric of what makes Boston great. They work hard, they pay taxes, and they struggle like all of us to raise their families the best they can. They are seeking to be treated fairly and with respect and dignity. In short, they are seeking social and economic justice. And these are the same workers these are the same working people who try and give something back to their communities. Growing up in a neighborhood, like many of you, you learn at an early age about life's challenges. You witness their story play out time and time again. Regular people, everyday people, working hard, serving others, seeking a better way to improve the lives of their families. These workers are leaving a lasting impact on the community. Some pretty determined and courageous individuals who will leave a positive impression on you. When I look at these working men and women, I also think about our youth sports coaches across the city, labor leaders, community activists, veterans, first responders, and public employees who have had a big impact on me. In my community, Tommy Lyons or Dennis Flynn, Coach Kenny Praskinis were heroes to me, but so were labor leaders fighting for working families, like Tom McIntyre, Miles Calvey, Brian Lang, Pat Walsh, Bob Guiney. I think about our community activists today who also deserve our thanks. People like Kathy Lafferty from the South Boston Neighborhood House, people like her and so many others who keep our neighborhood strong and our kids active, focused, and on the right path. When we talk about serving others, I think about my time in the U.S. military, both on active duty and in the reserves. This experience exposed me to so many dedicated people affiliated with our military, whether in the Persian Gulf or assisting troops with relief efforts in Haiti. I remember that devastation of that earthquake in Haiti, where literally thousands of people were killed, and I'm proud of the response of the U.S. government. I also know about our disabled veterans, the struggles they have as well, but the grit and the determination they have to persevere and make it in this world. While we reflect on these workers today, I also think about how proud I am of our trade unions and the labor movement here across the country. I think about how I watched the courageous striking Lenin shipyard workers stand up to the powerful communist Soviet troops in Gdansk, Poland during martial law. This had a profound impact on me. This striking union workers, their motto was solidarity. We also share that same solidarity with the striking workers today. I would be remiss if I did not mention that I have also seen the spirit of these working people and the many dedicated public service employees and first responders right here in Boston. They do their best, oftentimes in very difficult situations, to deliver basic city services to help make life better for the residents of Boston. I had the chance to work closely with our Boston police officers as a probation officer across the street at Suffolk Superior Court. In my experience, I also saw firsthand how dangerous the job of a police officer was. But I also saw the kindness of our police officers as they try to help young men and women put their lives back together. They didn't do this for publicity. They simply wanted to help kids who made a mistake. Over the years, I met police officers like Tom Scott or Willis Saunders or Bobby Flynn, many others, who never gave up on the people of Boston, and neither will I. In my neighborhood, I've seen heroic Boston firefighters run into burning buildings to help save the life of an elderly or handicapped person. I can't begin to tell you how much moving it is to hear these stories about our professional EMTs rushing to the scene of an accident, transporting people to the hospital. Over the years, I've also seen the dedication of our city workers keeping our city's streets and parks clean. Even in times of fiscal constraint, our dedicated city employees teach our children. They help our special needs children, oftentimes using their own money on supplies. They feed the hungry, they empty our trash barrels, and they help our elderly. We've all witnessed this dedication and professionalism. We also stand with the striking workers at Logan Airport, just as we stood with the striking nurses at Tufts several months ago. We stand with those seeking to collectively bargain for fair and living wages or safe and working conditions. I am committed to working with each and every one of you and with the mayor to ensure that Boston remains a world-class city for all. I'm proud of our city councilors. I'm proud of our mayor for always being there for the people of Boston. And let us ensure that our work here, unwavering support for working men and women, standing with the most vulnerable in society and treating everybody with dignity and respect. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you, Councilor Flynn. Thank you, Councilor Flynn. And Carrie, I have to thank you for allowing the camera, frankly, to span to see the presence of the workers who have joined us today. As I think Councilor Flynn and Councilor Edwards said it best, we stand with you, and I think everyone added their names. But thank you for being here today on a cold, snowy day. Thank you for bringing the little guy and being here as well with him. And at this time, Councilor Edwards would like to suspend the rules and adopt docket number 0266. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0266 has been adopted. Docket 0267, Madam Clerk.
Docket 0267, Councilor Wu offered the following order, that the Boston Planning and Development Agency continues biannual urban renewal updates to the Boston City Council.
Councilor Wu, you have the floor.
This is just a refile to get the legislative docket in there so we can continue having our conversations with the BPDA every 6 months about urban renewal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Wu. Docket 0267 will be assigned to the Committee on Planning, Development, and Transportation. Personnel orders.
Docket number 0268, Councilor Campbell for Councilor Wu.
Councilor Wu moves for suspension of the rules and passage of docket 0268. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0268 has been passed. I am informed by the clerk that there are 2 late file matters, which in the absence of objection will be added to the agenda. These are 2 personnel orders. Hearing and seeing no objections, the late file matters have been added to the agenda. Madam Clerk, if you could read the first late file matter.
February 5th, 2018, Councilor Campbell for Councilor Edwards.
Councilor Edwards moves for suspension of the rules and passage of the first late file matter. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. The first late file matter has been passed. The second late file matter, Madam Clerk?
February 6, 2018, Councilor Campbell for Councilor Baker.
Councilor Baker moves for suspension of the rules and passage of the second late file matter. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. The second late file matter has been passed. At this time, anyone wishing to remove a matter from the green sheets? Yep. Councilor Wu, you have the floor.
Apologies, Madam President. We had, Councilor Presley and I have a late file as well. I don't know, there were two
Yes.
dockets and one ended up not being needed, but the second one is still intended to be late filed.
Yes, we'll get to that in 1 second.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to pull anything from the green sheets? No? Okay, and on to the consent agenda. We'll actually fold that late file into the consent agenda. So we actually have 6 late file matters, which in the absence of objection will be added to the consent agenda. Seeing and hearing no objections, the late file matters have been added. And on the first one, which Councilor Wu just spoke of, Councilor Wu, you have the floor to say some words.
Is it 6 or 5?
Shocked, horrified, disturbed by the news about the USA Gymnastics Association and what's been happening with Dr. Larry Nassar, who's now been convicted and sentenced. I want to thank Ronnie Jacobson from my office, who is a gymnast and a coach, and took personal initiative in really wanting to make sure that the council spoke on this issue as well. We know from the coverage that coaches and officials in amateur athletic organizations have not been mandated reporters, even though they work with youth on a regular daily basis. And there's now federal legislation that is moving through the pipeline, changing that. So this is just a resolution to support that and emphasize that every child needs to be safe in the ways that the City of Boston interacts with families from schools, community centers, and outside in extracurricular activities as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Wu. Councilor Presley, do you look to speak on this matter? Okay. Councilor Presley, you have the floor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Trying to bring some levity, I guess, for a second to such a somber and infuriating thing. Thank you, Councilor Wu, for initiating this, and thank, what is the name? Ronnie. Okay, and thank you, Ronnie, for bringing forward another example of what can happen when you have the talented and dedicated people that we have in our offices, and when you give them space to bring their full contribution. So thank you, Ronnie, for that. You know, I'm struggling a little bit only because, as pleased as I am that there is this elevated consciousness and this activism in this space, it is for many survivors a trauma trigger. You know, everything that is happening, and I'm certainly no exception to that. You know, there are many issues that I've brought before this body that some have considered to be provocative and uncomfortable and third rail, you know. But the very first time I received hate mail was when I disclosed that I was a survivor of campus sexual assault. And I was called a liar, and I was called a whore, and I was accused of trying to evoke sympathy. So often, the victim is blamed in these situations, and so I just wanted to, in this moment, to hold space for and to elevate and to thank these survivors for their bravery in calling out this manipulative, predatory man who betrayed the confidence of these parents, who entrusted the most precious thing in their life to someone who violated that so egregiously. And it is only right that that monster has been sentenced to 40 to 175 years, certainly a befitting punishment for his crimes, because I can assure you that those victims, those standing very bravely in that courtroom and telling their stories, they will be living with the residual pain and brokenness of this trauma for the rest of their lives. As I've said many times before, I'm guided by the words of Dr. King, who said laws may not change hearts, but they restrain the reckless. And that's why it is so important during this level of elevated consciousness around issues of sexual harassment, assault, and exploitation, that we are codifying this activism in lawmaking. And so I'm especially thankful for the last whereas. This law would extend the statute of limitations and at least open the pathways for victims to confront their abuser and to find some justice on their pathway to healing. In closing, in the words of our clergy earlier today, who said, the more we remain silent, the more people suffer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Presley. Anyone wishing to add their name to this particular resolution? Madam Clerk, if you could add Councilor Siomo, Councilor Edwards, Councilor Asabi George, Councilor Flaherty, Councilor Flynn, Councilor Janey, Councilor McCarthy, Councilor Zakem, and the Chair. Councilor O'Malley? Did I miss you, Councilor O'Malley? I apologize. Madam Clerk, if we could also add Councilor O'Malley. At this time, the Chair moves for the adoption of the entire consent agenda, including those 6 late file matters. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The consent agenda has been adopted. Now, at this time, I'd like all guests, councilors, staff to please rise as the council prepares to adjourn today in the memory of the following individuals. For Councilor Baker, Colleen O'Connor, his cousin. For Councilor Siomo, Herbert Herbie Goodman. For Councilor Edwards, Pat McAlpin. For Councilor O'Malley, Elizabeth McNichols. Ann Cronin Kelly. Angela Heffernan. For Councilors Flaherty and Flynn, Eileen Hennessy, Thomas Brown. At this time, may we have a moment of silence, please? Thank you. The Chair moves that when the Council adjourns today, it does so in memory of those aforementioned individuals, and we are scheduled to meet again February 14th at 12 noon in this chamber. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. The Council is adjourned.